Hello everyone and welcome to Brand and Becoming. This is a LinkedIn Live series where I speak with senior leaders about building careers and business that actually last. We share stories, insights and lessons along the way. We talk about growth, visibility, leadership and how to stay credible and relevant in fast-moving markets. I'm really pleased today to be joined by Paul McCann. Paul is currently Vice President of Sales at Quid, where he leads go-to-market and revenue growth for an AI-powered market intelligence platform. He's a senior sales leader with extensive experience building and scaling high-performing teams internationally. He's led go-to-market and revenue transformations for both scale-ups and global SaaS business with a strong focus on predictable growth, strong sales execution and leadership that actually scales. I'm going to bring Paul into the studio now so we can say hi to him. Hi, Paul. How are you?
Very well, Caisha. Nice to see you today. And thanks for
nice to see you as well. Really good to have you here, and thanks for joining me. And I know I've just kind of introduced you with my, I suppose, thoughts of kind of what you've done, but for someone who doesn't know you, how would you describe what you focus on today and what you're doing today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a SaaS sales leader, been a SaaS sales leader for pretty much for all of my career. And really, in a nutshell, what I do is help SaaS sales teams simplify to go to market. So we help them sort of see the clarity and remove the complexity from the day-to-day activity. So it's really focusing on help team turn strategy into execution. So we're aligning incentives, focus on the right priorities, and building those growth engines and repeatable systems. And finally, just making sure that the teams are set up to be successful in their day-to-day activities.
Yeah, amazing. And I think having the right go-to-market strategy, especially as things are moving so quickly, the way that people want to buy it is always changing. It's a crucial role, isn't it? Because without sales, there is no business. Would you say that throughout your time you've had to adapt quite a lot with go-to-market, how you're selling, how you make sure that the sales teams are kind of learning along the way with kind of selling differently as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think go-to-market has changed in recent years, so it's very less focused now on volume and more focused on precision, making sure that we get those fundamentals right. So ensuring that we're focused on the right ICP, we're doing our qualification thoroughly and rigorously, making sure that, we're working with the right buyer personas within those accounts. And setting the team up to be successful, as I said earlier, but more importantly, making sure that we're building sustainable revenue growth for the business with very thorough and well-executed go-to-market motions.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose from your experience, what would you say separates consistently high-performing sales teams from the rest? Have you noticed that there's something that separates or there's a differentiation between the two?
Yeah, I'd say what you find is that in high-performing sales teams, you're going to hear the word no a lot more on a day-to-day basis. It's, people that are going to challenge you because they want to do the right things. So what you'll find is that with high-performing teams, the individuals are going to be absolutely, obsessive about things like, deal qualification, the right ICP, follow-ups, but more importantly than anything else, making sure that we're focusing on, very tangible and well-validated customer outcomes.
Yeah, I suppose selling more from a solution and outcome driven, basis rather than here's what we've got to sell. Do you want to buy it? It's kind of looking at what the accounts or customers need and want, and more benefit led to those outcomes when they're selling.
Exactly. I think everything needs to tie back to that business outcome. And what you'll find is, with a high performing team, they're always going to work backwards. They're going to reverse engineer to understand this is the objective of the business. This is the desired outcome. And this is what we need to do on a day-to-day basis to ensure that we can meet those objectives to a mutual win-win situation.
Yeah. And I think you're right there where you say the thing about they're used to hearing no more often, because I think if you're not hearing the word no, then you're probably not trying hard. You're probably not knocking on enough doors.
Yeah, I think again, as a sales leader, that's what you want, really. You want your team to challenge you, on a day-to-day, to question that we're doing the right things to be successful for the business. And you tend to hear no a lot more, but what you find is that the talent matters, but it's the consistency on a day-to-day basis that's so important.
Yeah, definitely. And from your opinion and from what you can see, how should founders or kind of CEOs be thinking about go-to-market right now? I know it's quite a big question, but have you got any what they should be focusing on?
I mean, as I said earlier, I think it really has evolved in recent years. It's moved from being very much volume-based to precision-focused now, and it should be seen as a system, not as a motion. So go-to-market today, it's about sequencing. So who we target, how do we prove value, looking at those feedback loops between sales and marketing and the product management team, and making sure that we're acting on any sort of nuances on a real-time basis. But it's more focused on the alignment between sales, marketing, product, and the other functions in the organisation.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that whole bit about precision and actually being super focused on what you are doing, how you are targeting prospects, because buyers are a lot smarter now, aren't they, as well, to all the different tactics, and kind of if it's not super personalized or if it's not going to benefit them, then they're probably not going to be interested. So I think being super precise with who you are targeting and how you're targeting them and adding value is really important as well, isn't it? Rather than just
completely.
It's like you need to knock on enough doors, but do it in a way that actually you're going to add value to the prospect rather than just make it all about yourself.
Totally. I think we'll probably come on to this at some point, and again, that's probably where AI can add value as well.
Yeah,
so we're
definitely.
Speaking to the right ICP, the right buyer persona that actually has an interest in what you're selling, rather than going out there and a wing and a prayer.
Yeah, definitely. And where would you, and I don't know if you've seen it over your different roles that you've had, but where are you seeing that sales teams tend to overcomplicate growth? I think there's so many different things in there, or so many parts of a sales role. Have you noticed a trend of where maybe companies or where organizations are overcomplicating growth, where maybe they could just focus on core things, for example?
Yeah, it's definitely working with earlier stage SaaS companies. It's where they tend to add tools and processes, maybe too early, where they don't need them, and they're overcomplicating. They're putting, too many layers into the process, which is then confusing the team. And what they need to be focusing is on that clarity, making sure that they've got the messaging right, making sure that the targets are set up in the right way, making sure that we've the team enabled, rather than putting in these sort of like totally slightly laborious processes that are really just slowing down that time to value. That's typically what I've found in the past as well. And again, over-investing and over-indexing on tools as well, which again, I've been there myself in the past. When you're speaking with salespeople, go, well, we have this tool for outreach, this tool for CRM, and this for enrichment, and this for for call intelligence. I think personally, it's overburdening to a certain degree, and we need to make sure that we're setting the team up to be successful, but really simplifying that go-to-market, rather than, just as I say, putting too many layers of process that is ultimately slowing down the delivery.
I think when there's too many different tools, it can be confusing as well, can't it? And almost just take so much time up for the salesperson to learn these different tools, and then it's almost like they're not focusing on the thing that will move the needle. They're just focused on all these different systems and what they need to log where and kind of how to do all these different things. Or actually, it's like focus on things that's going to get you close to the sale, and then the other stuff are nice to have, aren't they? And they're important, but not having too many things that it's like, I suppose it's more confusing then, isn't it, for the salesperson to try and use, and which you don't want. I think, yeah, you're totally right there. Too many tools aren't always a good thing.
No, not necessarily. No. Keep it simple. Again, tools that matter and that are going to really add value, rather than overburdening the sales. Yeah,
definitely. And I know you just touched on not long ago around AI, and from what I'm kind of doing and what I'm seeing with clients, but also we all know AI is everywhere at the moment. how would you see that, or how are you seeing that it's generally changing go-to-market in practice? And I suppose if you've got any tips for people that want to utilize AI?
I think it's important to highlight that, AI and the tech, it doesn't fix go-to-market. It's the clarity that does. And it doesn't fix the strategy, but what it really helps a business do is scale the operation. So, so it's compressing time, it's giving time back for the team to work, to be less focused on the research, content creation, deal preparation. We can do analysis now a lot quicker. The advantage isn't the automation alone, but it's the better judgment, really. It's the better decisioning that we can provide and support the individual day to day.
Yeah.
So what it's not doing, I don't say it's raising the floor. It's raising the ceiling, really. Everyone can now prospect faster. They can get better analysis, better insight, really, into their prospects, into the customers, to help them make more informed decisions.
It's great from a research perspective, isn't it, to be able to get information a lot quicker, or do kind of market analysis so much quicker than what we would have been able to do before. How would you say that and obviously you don't need to go into too much detail or share too much, but how are you seeing that it's working? Are you using it also for things like outreach, and are you finding that's useful, or kind of are you struggling with the personalization of it? Because I think that's the whole thing in itself, isn't it? Like, AI is great, but making sure we're not just scattergun approaching with it, or kind of things that do feel personal and human still.
Yeah, I think we tend to be using it more so when you get this sort of like the top of the funnel, really, at this stage. It's identifying the right leads. I have experimented in the past with using like agentic SDRs. I think for me, it wasn't good. I had quite a negative experience. But again, it's early days, and I'm sure it will evolve over time. But I think where it's most paramount importance is that sort of identifying the right leads, the right personas. So again, we can target the companies when they're in the right specific stage of the buying process. So if we know that a company's going out to market and an RFP is going to be sent out shortly, we're getting ahead of the curve there. If we know that they're in the evaluation process, how do we get involved in that process before we're too late, before we miss the boat? And I think that's where AI can add so much value. It really is that sort of thing, that horsepower, really, that it can offer. Conversational intelligence as well, in terms of the way I coach sellers is pretty critical as well. So I don't have to go through every single call. We can start to pick out certain points that the AI is highlighting that are going to be valid for that opportunity, that specific opportunity, and we can focus on certain topics, certain themes that we can then provide some sort of coaching framework around.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think being able to reflect on what works or what doesn't work as well, it's really good for that, isn't it? Like, so you don't have to sit in at every single call or every single meeting. You can just look at the high level stuff. And I just think there's so much that can be done with it. And like you say, it's using it in the right way, still making sure that people are human and kind of show who they are, but then using it for research or using it for that top of the funnel does work really well.
Again, we don't want to lose the human touch, really.
No.
Especially when it comes to like enterprise SaaS.
Yeah.
We want human to human selling, because it's all about the empathy side. It's understanding the business problems. Yes, the AI, as I said, can help support that decisioning, but we need to build those relationships, those trusted, sustainable relationships.
Yeah,
I think, the human engagement is still of huge significance in that respect.
And it can support the human engagement even more, can't it? Because I suppose before it would be handwriting notes, so it kind of, then you're not engaging as much. Whereas now things like AI note takers, I think, are amazing, because then I can focus more on the conversation and actually being there, rather than kind of like constantly looking down, taking notes, which is good to still have your kind of own personal notes. But I think things like note takes are really good to be able to focus on the human engagement, and then also for follow-ups as well, to make sure you didn't miss anything.
Yeah, you don't have that leaky bucket anymore now.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Where would you say, from what you're seeing and experience, where are leaders getting AI wrong when they introduce it to sales or revenue teams?
I think when they're seeing it as a replacement instead of a multiplier, so they're rolling it out with, without any sort of clear use cases. They're expecting, instant ROI, but they need to really focus on the strategy side of it. So, how do we go about changing workflows in order to support the AI changes? They're deploying AI without actually fixing the strategy first, because the AI is just really going to scale whatever you're doing. But as sales leaders, we want to make sure that we've got the right ICP, we've got the right messaging in place, and the AI will then help you scale. So as I said, it's not going to be that the panacea really that's going to fix all the problems necessarily. You need to make sure that you have the strategy defined initially before you then roll out and scale AI across the business. Because if you don't do that, you could have some quite detrimental circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. I think you sort of getting those fundamentals in place, isn't it, first, and it can't just replace a person. It's kind of we have to kind of work with it, train it, and like you say, it's the foundations and in one step at a time, isn't it? Rather than thinking, okay, this will replace us completely, which we wouldn't want anyway.
Yeah. They would say that AI is like it's like a child's brain, really.
Yeah.
It needs to train. It's going to evolve over time. If you get a child to go out and try and negotiate, a multi-million-pound deal from the get-go, it's not going to work out successfully. Yeah. So again, it's how you go about training those models, so then they can make the most informed decisions for you.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that completely. And I suppose and I know over your different roles in your career, you've had lots of different teams and I suppose manage a lot of different people. But when you are building a team, what do you value most of the people that you hire? And I suppose what advice would you give to someone who wants to stand out? Because I think now the whole thing of how to stand out for a new role, or what are people looking for, or how do I get an opportunity? Because I think sometimes people are focusing on the wrong things when it comes to their career, or they're maybe applying for those different roles, not getting somewhere. And have you got any advice for someone who maybe is trying to get a new role, and kind of what you look for in your team as well?
Probably the most important thing is that curiosity, really. It's that intellectually curious. How curious are they about what we do as a business, the problems that we solve? What do we do in terms of solving problems for our customers? Are they excited by our technology? Can they see how it can be applied to different use cases? It's really just candidates who really invest the time to show that curiosity in your business, and then that passion will then exude. That's really the fundamental thing that I'm looking. I look for a number of things, but that's probably the most important thing. That the individual's gone away, they've done their research, they've seen the value that we can add, and they can see the direction of the business and how it can really sort of like scale over time. Yeah,
I think that's it, isn't it? It's like having that genuine, like you said, curiosity, but also care and passion, isn't it? And that goes a long way, doesn't it? And I think if you've got two CVs that are quite similar, you're going to go for the person who seems more like interested, more curious, like they've done their research, they've come with their own questions or their own thoughts, and aren't just going through the motions with the interview, because you can feel that, can't you? Even if you're interviewing remotely, it goes a long way, your energy that you bring and questions you ask, or like what research you've done. And like we said, with AI, there's no reason that you can't have done a research on the company that you're going to interview with.
Yeah, again, it's all about how do you get under the surface. I mean, the best candidates are the ones that can teach me something in an interview about my own business. About maybe something that's happening in the marketplace, or talking about maybe one of our target accounts that's just looking for something similar to what we do within the market. It's really showing how you as an individual could add impact and add value in the interview process. And if they can do that, that they're going to be a great fit for the business.
Yeah, you're right. And so it's like they've already envisioned themselves in the role, what they would do, how they would approach it. And so it's like you said, kind of, like you said, give you some value or educate you. But then I suppose that maybe some candidates don't want to come across arrogant or like they're telling you what to do so it's kind of a fine line, I suppose. They want to do it in a way that feels helpful and feels like they're kind of showing their interest, but not in a way of, because I think some people may see that as, not everyone, but may like get defensive of, oh, they're telling me how to run my business. So I suppose as long as you don't come across arrogant with it and that you've done your research or that you've looked into it or you've got some ideas, can you share them? Would you say that's probably the right way to approach it?
Totally. Yeah. So it's intellectual curiosity and empathy, really. Yeah. So understand what it's like to walk in the customer's shoes.
Yeah. And I suppose something that I think as well, I don't know if you agree, is, at the end of an interview, if you're like, oh, so have you got any questions for us? And if they say no, it's a bit like, well, come prepared with something, with kind of, like you said, that's the way to show you curiosity, that, that you've gone away, you've done your research, you've got some questions, or you've thought about how you would be in the role or what you would do. So definitely have questions prepared.
Yeah. And again, I think, as I said earlier, it's all about, how do you go about digging, 2 or 3 layers below the surface, really. And with now, the information that we have available through AI, I think for me that's a non-negotiable, really. You need to do your research. You need to, at bare minimum, do a SWOT analysis, on every single company that you're interviewing with. Yeah. So where are those opportunities, where are those threats, what's the potential weaknesses, and how can they, and that then starts to frame questions for you, based on these weaknesses, how do you go about overcoming those weaknesses, or showing as an individual how you would go about approaching some of those weaknesses to help turn that part around for the business.
Yeah, definitely.
And that could be for, if you're applying for a customer success manager, or for account manager, or for an AE. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And how do you feel, I suppose, if someone was going to, let's say they've got an interview booked, how do you feel if they was to send you a connection request on LinkedIn before it? Does that do anything for you, or either way? How do you feel about it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's something that, I encourage and I like to see. But again, it's sort of like trying to personalize the message as well, rather than just a blank LinkedIn request. It's sort of like, explain, why you're interested in seeing me and why you're interested in the company. Just show that you've done that research, really, and you're well prepared. Yeah,
definitely. And like you said, it's that the message is everything, isn't it? But I think even if you do make the effort to reach out, it can help you stand out over a candidate who's got a very similar CV or even a slightly better CV, but just by you making that effort to show that you're curious, show that you care, and that you want the role and kind of want to work for the business and why, and that you, I suppose, like you said, that you've done that, taken that extra step to connect with you as kind of the person who would be they'd be reporting into, for example.
Yeah, I mean, that should be table stakes, really. I think it's something that every candidate should be doing. And again, that personalised message, it doesn't need to be War and Peace initially. It's just, hey, I'm excited about getting to, the opportunity to learn more about the business next week or this week, whenever it is.
Yeah. Do you find that people do that, or most people do it, or not really?
I'd say about 30% of candidates would do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, when it comes to the follow-up as well, I completely expect it as well. For me, if they don't send that follow-up, it's a sign that maybe they're not that interested in the role.
Yeah.
Or I didn't do a good enough job at selling the company. Yeah.
It goes a long way, doesn't it? And that's it. It's the same with prospecting, isn't it? The follow-up is key. The personalization is key. Going that extra mile to show you've done your research is key. It's kind of the same process, isn't it? It's people appreciate that you put the effort in, that you care, that you have differentiated yourself. And I think it goes a long way, whether it's a career point of view or from a prospecting point of view. It's the same principles, isn't it?
I think for me, especially if it's like an account executive, that's applying for the role, that is reflective of how they go about running their own sales process. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if I don't receive the follow-up, I go, well, okay, so how do they manage their follow-ups on an opportunity if they're not doing this, in a job search? Yeah,
totally. I get that. So I have a little segment now that I do with every guest, and it's called Brand Myth versus Brand Truth. So essentially I read out some statements for each one of you. Tell me if it's a myth or truth and why. Just a little bit of fun, but we'll start with the first one. Career progression comes mainly from who you know, not what you know. Is that a truth or a myth?
I think it is it is a truth. But again, this is where it goes down to being able to leverage the network that you have, and using the network to the best of your abilities. So I'm sitting on the fence a little bit, but yes, but it's maybe not who you know, but who you know knows. Yeah. But yeah, I think it is a truth that
I think, well, your network is really important, and I always say to people, leverage your network even when you're in a role that you like, because you never know when you may need them. Let's say, whether you're trying to win new clients or get a new role, always be networking, because you never know who could help you or where an opportunity may come from. And obviously there's the element of having credibility and doing a good job. You can't be completely rubbish and just have a good network. And you do need to be somewhat good, but I think who you know can really get you in space. And I was just speaking with someone yesterday who is now available for a new role, and straight away she's already got so many opportunities just from her network. So it's kind of, if you're always networking, always open to conversations, it may not lead anywhere, or it may kind of not be the right conversation, but you never know where it could lead and when you may need it.
Well, again, I think if you're working in sales, a bit of a cliche really, but you always need to be networking, and I think that really should be part of your DNA as well.
Yeah.
When it comes down to the point you mentioned about being curious as well, but then again, that's not just being curious about jobs, but being curious about people. Yeah.
It goes a long way, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing what being curious can lead to over time.
Yeah, definitely. And people like to talk about their own self, don't they? So if you're curious about people, care about what they're doing, inside and outside of work, and who they are, what makes them tick, they're more likely to want to talk to you because you're showing genuine curiosity and care about them.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the next one is the best sales leaders are the loudest voices in the room. Is that a myth or a truth, and why?
Yeah, I'd say that's a definite myth, really. I've worked for a number of different sales leaders, and some of them have been, the quietest, most reserved individuals, but probably the most considered as well. Quite often, I could have sales meetings with people, and it's just sitting, consuming, absorbing what's going on in the room, and just sort of like learning from different people that are in that meeting before jumping in and making a judgment call. So yeah, I'd say that's a myth.
Yeah, I think it takes quite a strong person and a skill to not always be the one talking and kind of actually listening and kind of letting people even in your team to educate you, for example, and kind of hire people that are maybe better at you in certain things as well. Would you, I suppose, agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, part of my sort of cadence would be to obviously do pipeline calls, but if it's a sales meeting, I very much I'm of the opinion that the sales meeting is for you guys. It's for you as a team. I will facilitate whatever you want to get out of that meeting. It's your meeting, and I encourage as much as possible that interaction between the team. And I would just sit back and sort of, as I said, really just facilitate what's going on in that meeting.
Yeah, definitely. And the last one is AI will replace salespeople. Is that a myth or a truth, and why?
Ooh, wow. I think it's going to. I think it depends on the sales motion. I mean, what I'm finding now is with like PLG, sales that I think that will be a truth over a period of time. I don't know, I work more in enterprise SaaS, so I'd like to think that's a definite myth. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier, is that AI will provide you with all the decisioning tools to make better judgment calls, but you still need to build empathy. And to build empathy, it's through building credible, sustainable business relationships. And that's what SaaS is. It's building sustainable relationships over a long period of time, not just, a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it'll be hard to... Yeah. So it will support salespeople and maybe some of the the admin tasks that they need to do but maybe not actually their role, especially for like leadership or kind of enterprise type deals, because that whole saying of people buy from people, I still think will exist, because if not, how is each AI thing going to differentiate them?
I'm starting to see more companies now run the like interactive AI demos, which are okay. I wouldn't say they're great. Again, this is the beginning of the journey, isn't it? And if I'm on an interactive demo and I ask a very rudimentary question, and it's taking AI, I don't know, more than 35, 40 seconds to come back with an answer, it's lost my interest. I'd rather speak to a human and have that sort of one-to-one dialogue.
Yeah, the real conversation. So is authenticity with speaking to a real person can go a long way. Thank you for that. And I think, like I say, it's good to get your opinion on those things and your take on it. And the final question that I've got for you, because I think you had a lot of value there in terms of how you see AI, but also the whole go-to-market thing, because it is always changed, isn't it? And what companies are doing or what they're focusing on does need to adapt and change with the times as well. But if you could go back to your early career and kind of give yourself some advice to your younger self at the very start of your career, what would it be? If you can just, I suppose, from where you're at now, all the lessons that you've had, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Again, I can keep harping on about it. It comes back to relationships, really. Those relationships that you form and forge in the early stage of your career, will go with you for the rest, for the next 10, 20, 25, 30 years, or long it is. So it's just making sure that you treat people the right way and they enjoy being in the same room as you, really. You don't always have to be the smartest guy, but you can be the most authentic version of yourself with showing value. I think that's more important than else, because it's all about reputation. If you have a weak or poor reputation, you're not going to last very long, in your career, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that, and I totally agree. I think reputation goes a long way, doesn't it? And what people think about you, or how they would talk about you when you're not there. And I think just being a nice person, a good person, and doing your best, I suppose, isn't it, within everything that you're doing?
Well, we spoke about the power of the network earlier, and everybody is, connected, 3 or 4 times removed, I believe, on LinkedIn. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the relationships you formed earlier on, are going to have a perpetual, impact on your career.
Yeah. And it says, just on that question, when at the earlier start of your career and as you've been navigating it, because a lot of people that I speak to, they've struggled with some kind of self-doubt or imposter syndrome, or just feeling like they're not ready for that next step. Have you ever experienced that or not?
I think when I first moved into sales leadership, I did, definitely, yeah, because, I was pretty young when I had my first line sales management role, and I didn't know what I was doing. Nobody sat down with me and said, this is how you need to manage people on a day-to-day basis. This is how you set up an operational cadence. This is the best way to coach people. I got the job like a lot of first-time sales leaders because I was a top-performing salesperson. And I treated everybody, like the way I was running my sales deals. So I think that's something to learn from. Yeah,
definitely. I think it's almost like figure it out as you go in, and a lot of people, I think that the whole thing is like a lot of people are figuring out life or their roles as they are going, but I think especially within sales, because you're a top performing salesperson, and then once you've got the management role, it's a whole different ballgame, isn't it, to then manage other people and their different quirks or personalities or how they like to work.
Absolutely, it's completely different. Because rather than just focusing on yourself, it's making sure that you're there to support your team. You're setting them up to be successful every single day, rather than waking up in the morning and just thinking about what is it that I need to do to be successful. It's what do I need to do to ensure that the team are going to be the best version of themselves on a daily basis.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Paul. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I got a lot out of that, but I think a lot of other people will also. And even when it comes to career advice or how to differentiate yourself, because it's those little things that people can do, which a lot of people, like I said, only 30% even try and connect with you, and it's those little things that go a long way to make you stand out, to even progress your career internally. Just networking, speaking to people, being curious will help you get that next step up, or the next position, or that new client.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, if anybody wants to connect with me, please reach out, and I'm always available to give any sort of advice or guidance. If I can offer any pearls of wisdom, happy to do so.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that, and do take that on board. And for anyone watching, the recording will be available to watch back, and for those that do watch on the replay, which I know a lot of you do, then it will be available across my socials and the newsletter. And if you found this useful, feel free to connect with Paul. As I said, he is happy to connect with you and kind of help if you've got any questions or if you want some advice. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you at the next episode. And thank you again, Paul, for that.
Thank you, Caisha. Nice to see you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye now.